It was the early hours of July 23rd, 2007, in the quiet, peaceful town of Cheshire, Connecticut. The Petit Family home sat on a serene, tree-lined street, an idyllic symbol of security and family life. Inside the house were Dr. William Petit, his wife, Jennifer Hawk Petit, and their two daughters, 17-year-old Haley, a recent high school graduate with dreams of attending Dartmouth College, and 11-year-old Michaela, a bright and creative young girl who loved to cook and bake for her family. To the outside world, the Petit family was the picture of happiness. Dr. Petit was a respected physician, known for his dedication to helping others. Jennifer worked as a nurse and was known for her compassion and care for everyone she encountered. Their daughters were the pride and joy of their lives, and the family shared a close bond that brought warmth and joy to everyone around them. But that night, as the family lay asleep, a dark and sinister plan was taking shape. Two men, Stephen Hayes and Joshua Komisarjevsky, were lurking in the shadows. Earlier in the day, Hayes and Komisarjevsky had spotted Jennifer and Michaela at a local grocery store. They followed them home, intending to break in under the cover of darkness. What they planned to do once inside was chillingly premeditated, and it would become a night of unimaginable terror. In the early morning hours, the men made their move. They broke into the Petit home, entering quietly so as not to awaken the family. They found Dr. Petit asleep in the basement, and their assault on him was brutal and swift. He was beaten severely, tied up, and left with injuries that would have immobilized most people. In the upstairs rooms, Jennifer and her daughters were taken by surprise, their sanctuary shattered in an instant. The men held the family captive, and the next hours would be a nightmare from which there was no escape. As dawn began to break, Hayes and Komisarjevsky forced Jennifer to leave the house to withdraw money, thinking it would give them a quick payoff to fund their escape. Under extreme stress, Jennifer complied, walking into a local bank. She withdrew the $15,000 that they demanded, but found the courage to alert the bank teller to her dire situation, desperately hoping for a lifeline. The teller immediately understood the gravity of the situation and contacted the police. Within minutes, law enforcement arrived at the scene and surrounded the Petit family home. But, unaware of the full scale of the danger inside, they made the difficult choice to wait for backup, keeping a cautious distance. They set up a perimeter around the house but held back, hoping to avoid further harm to the family. Tragically, this decision would have devastating consequences. Inside the home, the nightmare only grew darker. Despite the police presence, Hayes and Komisarjevsky's actions became increasingly violent. They knew the authorities were nearby, and it seemed to push them into a state of panic. Driven by a twisted sense of control, they turned their aggression toward Jennifer. In a final, tragic act, she lost her life at the hands of Hayes. Meanwhile, Michaela, only 11 years old, was also subjected to horrifying cruelty. Afterward, the assailants escalated their plan to a level of devastation that remains hard to comprehend. They tied Haley and Michaela to their beds, ensuring they were unable to move. Then, in a final irreversible act, the men poured gasoline throughout the house and set it alight, igniting an inferno that quickly consumed everything in its path. The two young girls, bound and unable to escape, were overtaken by the smoke and flames as they lay helpless, their lives cut tragically short. In the basement, despite his severe injuries, Dr. Petit found within himself a final, desperate surge of strength. Beaten and bound, he somehow managed to break free, and, driven by the instinct to survive and seek help for his family, crawled out of the basement and onto the lawn. He dragged himself to a neighbor's yard, where he finally found someone to call for help. But by the time firefighters and emergency responders reached the burning home, it was already too late. The fire had consumed nearly everything, and the loss was devastating. The community was left in shock, their hearts broken for a family that had once been a beacon of kindness and warmth. News of the tragedy spread quickly, casting a dark shadow over the town of Cheshire and resonating across the nation. The aftermath of that night would be long and painful. Stephen Hayes and Joshua Komisarjewski were apprehended almost immediately, caught while attempting to flee the scene in the Petit family's car. The evidence against them was overwhelming, and the legal proceedings that followed were closely watched by the entire country. Each detail that emerged only deepened the horror, revealing the full extent of the suffering inflicted upon the Petit family. In 2010, Stephen Hayes faced trial. The jury heard testimony that left them, and those who followed the case, shaken to the core. Hayes was ultimately convicted and sentenced to death, a decision that reflected the gravity of his actions. Joshua Komisarjewski's trial followed in 2012 with similar outcomes. Like Hayes, he received the same ultimate sentence, one that many believed could bring a measure of justice to the Petit family. However, in 2015, the state of Connecticut abolished this form of punishment. Hayes and Komisarjewski's sentences were commuted to life imprisonment without parole, sparking debate and strong reactions from both supporters and opponents of the decision. Dr. Petit, the lone survivor of the tragedy, became an advocate for justice and for victims' rights, using his voice to honor the memory of his family and to advocate for change in the legal system. The case left a deep impact on the community and led to increased awareness of home security. Many called for changes in how police respond to crises, arguing that faster action might have saved lives that night. It was a tragedy that served as a painful lesson, one that underscored the need for vigilance, compassion, and swift intervention in times of emergency. To this day, the Petit family's story serves as a reminder of resilience, justice, and the importance of family. The lives of Jennifer, Haley, and Michaela Petit, though tragically cut short, continue to inspire acts of kindness, awareness, and support for others. In the face of an unimaginable ordeal, Dr. Petit found a path forward, transforming loss into a mission of compassion and advocacy, honoring the memory of his loved ones. The Cheshire case remains etched in the minds of many, a story of both heartbreak and resilience, a reflection of the strength of the human spirit in the face of unthinkable adversity. It stands as a solemn reminder of the courage of a family and a call to action, urging communities to stand together and support one another no matter how dark the world may seem.